Hello and welcome along to Exchanges, the Alex Martin podcast. Today we are excited to be joined by a true expert in the property finance field. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Dan Sovitch. How are we, Dan? How are we?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good.
Yeah,
we're good. We're pretty used to this by now. In the cab on the way here, you were a little bit shaky, I thought.
You think?
You were a little bit nervous.
Yes, all those pints of beers I had on the way just to get me ready for today.
Yeah. So what makes you want to come on today?
I was told I had to.
Didn't have a choice.
Didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
I got the phone call and said, "Do you want to be on screen?" So here I am.
And are you used to being in front of the cameras? Is that
Really?
No.
No, not particularly.
okay?
No.
What were you going to say?
He'll be alright. We'll look after him.
I asked the same question to everyone that comes on. Do you want to give us a little background as to how you first met Alex and how your relationship has blossomed?
Do you want the true story or the fun story? So many years ago in a strip club. No.
I was going to be interested in that.
By the way.
Neither of us were the stripper or the client, by the
Yeah.
way. I just want to make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
Is that actually true?
No.
I can't remember when we met. First time.
How did we meet? It was obviously because you were selling a property,
Yeah.
a church, most likely, and you needed someone that would fund it for one of your clients. We got introduced by mutual contacts, and then we kind of just hit it off, didn't we? We worked really well together. I think we actually went, first time we met, you took me some random house somewhere in Hainault, I think.
Sounds like
You
you.
always take
It's
people
such a
places.
road trip.
Everyone
I
is
don't remember that. A
You opened up the
random house.
curtains.
Have you noticed it's never, we just met at a restaurant. It's always,
Yeah.
he grooms
no,
me
we
or
introduced
took me
you
to a
to
random
business world.
house.
So a random house.
Yeah, it was just, and there was...
Oh no, I've got it.
Then there was
yeah.
a big
It was
kind
a
of
church.
church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was all the trustees in their living room.
All
We
the
had to squeeze in.
trustees,
It was a
yeah,
small
yeah.
living room with about 20 trustees in there.
20 trustees,
Yeah.
all asking me questions all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was quite interesting. And then that's it. We just hit it off, didn't we? We worked well together, and here we are. I don't know what, over 10 years later.
The
Still doing
reason
business
I
together.
rate you so much is can't remember what deal it was, but the deal was dead. They had a mortgage broker,
Yeah.
and the deal collapsed, and it was
Yeah.
like going nowhere. And I went, and then you were recommended to me.
Yeah.
And literally within 48 hours, you had an offer on the table for
Yeah.
them, and the deal happened. I went, okay, well, he can pull out a deal where no one else can do it.
I think you used the word persistency
Yeah.
was quite a key there, because I can be quite relentless in those situations.
Yeah.
I'm particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? I get even more motivated when I know someone else has failed, because then I have to prove a point. And I'll just keep going and keep going and keep going, and think you saw that. So here we are, all those years later.
I like that mindset. What do you think separates Dan from the rest of the people in his field? Is there a key component?
I think he's just given it, hasn't he? I mean, he is relentless. We actually have you as a client on a building that you own to let. Oh my God, you are hard work.
Oh,
really?
yeah. I'm just making sure we're talking about the same building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ditto what Al said. No, but it's good. Like,
No,
obviously it mirrors the way you
Yeah,
work, and
fantastic.
it's relentless, but we sometimes need it. We have so many, as you say, plates spinning. Sometimes it does fall off our list, and we need you to call us 15 times in an hour.
I think it's a bit of OCD in
remind
me,
us.
to be honest with you. I'm a problem solution man. So if there's a problem, I can't sleep until it's resolved. Whatever that may be, whether it's in business, in life, I have to get it resolved. So here we are with this unlet, unsold building.
lot of sleepless
it's
nights,
driving
eh?
me nuts. And I'm like that with my clients. I'm like that with deals.
Are
I
you-
have to get it over the line.
How you like that with your wife and family?
Yes. I have to get it over the line.
Yeah.
And I won't sleep until I do.
We'll get there.
So,
There's a famous quote from Ben Parker from Spider-Man: "With great power comes great responsibility." And I hear that you are very powerful at manipulating. Now, do you want to tell me, were you born with that skill? Because it can be a good skill, but it can also be used very badly.
I don't know if it's manipulating. I just think I drive people so mad until they just give in and say, okay.
Yeah.
No,
Ma-
it's-
I was going to say manipulation is not a good word.
no, I don't-
Manipulation is, yeah, I mean, it's got a bad rep. The word's got a bad rep, but I don't mean that in an offensive way, because look at Bill Gates. He's probably manipulated.
I don't think it's about being. Look, for me, the priority is always. I think before you can, and I don't want to use the word manipulate, but for the context, I'll use the word manipulate. I think you've got to build rapport first. I think people got to buy into you. They've got to trust you. Once they start trusting you, then suddenly you can start not influencing, but you can start doing what you need to do to get people to kind of get you where you need to get to. That makes sense. So when I was younger, I was always obsessed with NLP. Does anyone around the table know NLP?
Back in the day, I read that book.
Neuro-linguistic programming.
I think we're too young, Matt.
So NLP is...
Is that like the little box that you put the pen on and it would make like a sound?
No. It's like body language, but super intense. Everything, how you talk to people,
NLP.
where your eyes
to
go.
give you a prime example, the most famous master of NLP is Darren Brown. Okay, so he's very, very good at it. You might have seen that episode, This Is the Winning Ticket. You know, he would walk to a, where you have the dog racing and you have the huts where you give your ticket and they give you the money. So he would make sure that from a distance, the lady that's in the hut could see him, and he walked towards her, and just in his body language, the way he walked, his facial expression, everything about him just said winner. And he went straight over to her and he looked her in the eyes and he went, "This is the winning ticket." And she literally, "Oh, okay." She's signing out the money.
Wow.
And then they said to her after, the camera said to her, "Did you not even look at the numbers?" It's almost like I didn't need to. That's the power of NLP. So I'm not quite as good as that, but I read a lot of books on NLP because it's how you push people's buttons.
Yeah.
It's sort of about whether people, whether you can get impact from someone from seeing something, hearing something, or smelling something, or feeling something. It's just pushing the right buttons, the right emotions.
Yeah, interesting.
So, and I learned that when I first got into the life insurance business, because when you talk to someone about life insurance and critical illness, it's all about almost disturbing people, making them feel... Sorry, Alex, I know you've got quite a lot of life insurance to me, so I'm giving away. Now I know. It's just making people feel like, oh shit, if I had a heart attack or something horrific like that, I need this kind of stuff. So that's how they coach you to sell life insurance.
Why is that sort of stuff so important? Why should people get life insurance?
Oh, it's massively underrated, to be honest. There's not enough people with it. Firstly, the younger you are, when you're younger, you're healthier. It's cheap. And if you get the right advice, the premium's fixed for the next 25, 35, 40 years, depending on what you got and what you need. As you get older, it gets super expensive. And you know, if you start to get any medical conditions, however minor they may be, anything on your medical history, you start to get priced out. So it can be too late. More importantly, if you've got debt, if you've got family, you've got kids, it's important that you leave money. So if you're not around, and specifically if you're the breadwinner in the family, you need to make sure they can clear all their mortgage debt and they've got money to live on. You know, you lose someone you love in your family, you don't really want to have to go straight back to work. You need that breathing space, you need that time to have financial security around you is imperative.
How old were you when you realised that I need this? Or I should get this?
I left it quite late. I mean, probably 10 years ago, and you signed me up on just about everything. I think you've just got yourself a new client now. He's worried.
Yeah, I am.
I'm a bit worried as well. I'm older than you.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's bonkers. People, I've got clients that pay up to, I'm not even joking, £5,000-6,000 a month, right?
What?
Because they've got to a certain age where, you know, might be overweight, there might be smokers and all sorts of medical complications, and they've got debt and they've got family. They're thinking, shit. However, you know, do it in your 20s and it's £50 a month. That's the reality of it.
Let's say I jumped on board today and I lived until I was 90 and I died.
No, so typically your term will be capped. Let's say, depending on what you need, maybe what most people do, if they've got a mortgage for 35 years, they'll protect it for 35 years. So it will then stop.
Interesting.
Yeah. So most people get life insurance and critical illness, which is arguably more important. 1 in 4 people get critically ill before they're age 65.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So arguably more important, because if you have a heart attack and all those cancers and all those horrific things, you've got to stop working. You don't want to have to worry. You know, you want a big lump sum, pay off your debt, give you some money to live on. So a lot of people will do it at the value of their debt and the length of the mortgage, plus maybe a top up for family. You don't have to do it like that, but that tends to be the norm.
Interesting. I never knew any of this. So, and it's not really. I don't think it's advertised that well. It's not really. Maybe you found a gap in the market.
That's why Dan's on the podcast.
No, it's not a gap in the market. I just think that's what keeps people like us in our job, I suppose. Because if it was that easy and people were that knowledgeable, they wouldn't need people like me.
Interesting.
So I don't do it anymore. Well, I do. Our firm does it, and we have people that in the company that do it, that specialise in it.
So you mentioned that debt is a red flag in this sector, but my is in, you know, if you're not in debt, you've got a better chance of getting it less.
No. Debt is just one of many reasons why you should get life insurance.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
My research suggests that you were in a bit of debt back in the day, quite a bit of debt.
What research are you looking at?
Well,
Because that's definitely not true. Yeah.
I'm interested.
I'm intrigued.
Looking at me for answers.
Yeah, go on.
What is your background in brackets involved in bad debt?
I mean, I used to underwrite subprime debt. That was my first career job. I trained as an underwriter, and we specialised in subprime debt. So that's mortgages for people that can't get mortgages on the high street. And then we hit credit crunch.
Oh, maybe I got my research mixed up. So you used to help people that were in bad debt?
No. Bad debt is not the wording I would use for this.
What's the wording?
Bad debt is like toxic debt. It's debt that people can't get out of. It's debt that's probably not advisable for them. I used to help people secure mortgages that couldn't get a traditional high street mortgage with a high street bank, a Halifax, HSBC, etc. So they go to what's called a subprime lender. These are unknown, non-mainstream lenders that would provide mortgages for people to buy houses and remortgage houses that can't get mortgages from the high street. It might be because they've got bad credit, countercourt judgments, mortgage arrears. It might be because they can't get their income to work, or they've got complex self-employed income, or it's a high-rise, ex-council, non-standard construction building. You know, any reason why you can't get a mortgage on the high street, they come to companies like the company I used to work for, and we'd help them secure that type of debt. Make sense?
It does. It is a bit complicated. It's a bit difficult to process, but it does. It's starting to make a little bit of sense.
Okay.
I'm firing my researcher, by the way.
Yeah. ChatGPT, yeah?
They
Sam
get it
said
wrong.
it.
They get it wrong every time.
Sam, shut up.
It's being cut out. But
Bad debt, what is he talking about? Is he talking about debt as in money, or is he talking about women?
That's nothing to do with women.
Okay.
No. Do you remember him saying that?
Yeah, but they gave the answer. That's what he used to do.
Yeah.
That's what he meant.
Maybe that's what Sam meant.
Yeah, that's what he meant. Definitely.
Yeah, complex specialist debt.
Can you do that now, or you just stay away from it?
I can do it, but you got to remember one of the biggest factors, one of the biggest reasons why we hit credit crunch was for irresponsible lending. And we work with lenders that would provide mortgages that you wouldn't dream of. You know, we could mortgage people out of bankruptcy. You know, I could mortgage people with millions of pounds worth of countercourt judgments. We used to do something called self-cert back in the day. Do you remember self-cert?
Nope.
Self-cert was when someone would say, I earn £100,000 a year, but I can't prove it. Yeah? But I want a £500,000 mortgage. We'd say, no problem, sign here just to say that you earn it. You don't need to prove it, and we can get you a mortgage for £500,000. That's what you used to be able to do back in the day.
And what changed?
Credit crunch.
Credit crunch, and then the laws changed, restrictions.
Most of those lenders went bust.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's the reason now why it's the opposite of that, where you've got to prove
And
salary
now
and bank
it's gone
statement.
other end of the spectrum. So it's super, you know, the complexities now of, you know, unless you're super vanilla and you say, I'm PAYE, I've been doing it for X amount of years, my salary's X, I'm 4 times income multiple, you know, I've got 25% deposit, you know, straightforward. But as soon as you start to get different moving parts, different anomalies, is that the right word? It starts to get tricky. But this is what makes us good at what we do. When I go out there, I tell people I'm an ex-underwriter, so I know how to pull a loan apart and put it back together again. And that's what makes us good at what we do.
People call you Sov. Do you want to give us the background behind the nickname? Is there any story to that? Or
Well, Sov Meister, Sov Maestro.
Yeah.
The Meister and the Maestro came first, and the Sov just worked really well with it.
I like the name, so I couldn't stop calling you Sov when I heard the nickname.
My name is Sovitch,
Yeah.
obviously spelled Sovitch. So a lot of people just suddenly said Sov, and it was a thing that happened in school. So people kind of started calling me Sov, and it just kind of stuck.
Professionally, they only call you Danny or Daniel, don't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, amongst friends, people do call me Sov. Even in business, you know, sometimes you guys refer to me as Sov, but
That's
we
what I thought your
work
name was.
together and we're friends as well. But that's come from Sam.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a Daniel, Dan, or Danny.
Yeah.
So I get it. People say Mr. Martin, and that's not my surname. And
Where
I know,
did Martin come from?
It's my middle name. But people didn't know that, and it helped me identify if they knew me well or not, because sometimes I'm a bit bad when it comes to faces and names.
Yeah, I thought your name was Alex Martin when I
Yeah.
joined the company.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about a week after I saw it was Dawson on your
So many people say, "Can I speak to Martin?"
Mr. Martin.
Yeah.
So we spoke about your early years. Very, very different to what you do now.
Correct, yeah.
How did you find that passion? Would you say you've got a passion for what you do?
Yes. I'm just immune to it now. It's just who I am. I've been doing it for 22 years. I think what's great about my job is every situation, every deal, every client is different. You know, so it doesn't always get repetitive, which kind of keeps that passion going. But I think when I left school, I weirdly had a passion for IT. Weirdly, because I bloody hate computers now. But I thought that was the route I was going to take. So I went to like an IT college. Didn't last very long there. Didn't really enjoy it. Went into trainee stockbroking a little bit in the city. Unfortunately, didn't end up in the right company, so it kind of went out of that. And then just through a relative of mine, I got a job at a mortgage company doing admin. And I'm quite old school, right? So whatever you put in front of me, I will graft. And I will do whatever I can to impress. I am someone that kicks down doors. I didn't really know I was that person until I got into my first job, and I thought, right, there's a path for me to grow in this. So I would do whatever it takes. So I was basically a runner doing all the crap jobs for a mortgage company. And I just worked hard and I worked my way up. But I was also quite lucky that I joined a company that was growing as well. I was growing, the company was growing, so I had opportunity. There was 15 people when I joined. When I left, there was 150 people.
Wow.
So I was able to kind of be a part of that path and be a part of that growth.
Were you a strong part of it?
I would say so. Yeah. And then I kind of got to the peak, I think, of what I could do there. So then I left and went out on my own.
And you started life, or was there a period in between that?
No, so I joined so the sales director of that company left, and he wanted to start his own mortgage brokerage, and he called me and said, I want you in. So I then went and joined him and kind of learned my way there and self-taught myself to a certain degree, because I went from underwriting, so my clients were mortgage advisors, brokers like myself. And then I went the other side of the market and went straight into advising and broking, where I was dealing with the client, the customer. So I was kind of B2B, and then I went to B2C. And then did that for about 5 years, and then we set up Life.
Okay, interesting. And would you say that setting up Life is the best decision you've ever made?
I wouldn't say it's the best decision I've ever made, but it was definitely the right decision. Yeah, for sure.
Did you have an epiphany? Was there a certain point where you realised, okay, I've got to go out on my own here and it's time to start something myself? Was there ever a moment, did you wake up one day and think, I've got to do this?
I've always had that. Even before my first job, I knew that was the path I would always take. That was just, it's probably in my DNA. You know, my dad was always out on his own, running his own business. My family, my mum, it's just in my genes. So I was never someone that would work for the rest of my life for someone.
Yeah.
I would always be my own boss. That was just always me. I didn't like being told what to do, but I was good at being told what to do, because I knew that if I impress people and I go above and beyond, you know, I'll go places, hopefully. It's just about mixing with the right people and networking and you know, being around successful people. That's the key.
Mm-hmm. We live in a culture now where a lot of people growing up want to be their own boss. They don't want to work for anyone. Would you say that working for you should work for someone
Yes.
first before you go out on your own?
I think working for someone that is good at what they do. You should always be around people with knowledge. Yeah, knowledge is power. Ben knows this with Alex. Alex is amazing at what he does, and now the tables are turned, and Ben's now more knowledgeable and better than Alex. It's just what happens, right? But listen, we're all football people here. You know, you speak. You know, if you want to make it as a footballer, you need to be around better players, right? So some people will go on their own at the beginning and it works out great. Some people don't, and you know, and actually the right decision is to go and work for people. As long as you're working for people that you enjoy working with, and that know their shit and they're good at what they do, because you need to learn from people. When you're younger, you're a sponge.
Yeah,
You've got to take everything in. You know, I say it to some of my staff and some of the trainees I've had over the years. I would just say, learn, ask questions. You have to ask questions, keep asking questions. And a good boss is someone that will allow you to ask questions and will give you the time to deliver those answers. And then you just mold into the person who you want to be. Don't try and be like your boss. You know, take and learn and become your own person. And if you're adaptable in life, eventually, if you've been around good people and you've worked hard, you'll do well.
With that drive, how hard is it being a boss and watching people without it?
It's really hard. It's really tough. I actually, when I started the business, in my head, I thought, I love managing people. This is what I want to do. In fact, myself and my business partner, we said, right, eventually I said, I'm going to come away from clients and I'm going to manage the people and the operations, thinking that I had a passion for it. And then you start to get the aggro and the politics. As you start to grow and bring in more people, it gets harder and harder and harder.
You use a lot of AI.
Sorry?
Do you use AI at all in your business?
Funny enough, I'm working behind the scenes at the moment on utilising AI in the lending space.
Does AI excite you or
Yes.
terrify you?
Terrifies me in a good way. Excites the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very, very fascinated by it. Will AI completely take over in certain industries? Humans, no. But I think there's certain sectors, particularly my sector, that could do so much more with it. I think people underestimate it because they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Do you think, are you looking into AI at all?
We started using it a little bit for admin to like write up descriptions and stuff, but I don't think it works for property.
No. See, it does work. You just got to know how to work it.
Yeah.
I think the naivety of people, not naivety is the wrong word, but you know, if you get an email from someone or a long message, and if you're someone that you use ChatGPT, you can just tell. And I think, that's just
Yeah,
lazy.
but that's my biggest problem. What's the point of using ChatGPT to then read over it again to make sure that it's right? I'd rather just write it first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Would you though?
Yeah.
No, and I got to be honest with you. You're 25 years old, and I would prefer the younger generation in business to actually use their brains, challenge themselves, and make mistakes. Because I think what ChatGPT does do, it makes people lazy, and it makes people not work their brain and think and focus and challenge themselves and make mistakes. You have, Alex, you have to make mistakes in business. How many times you sent an email and you've read it after and gone, oh shit, shouldn't have said this, shouldn't have said that.
I'm dyslexic. Sometimes I send,
Yeah.
I send an email and then they reply and I see what I wrote and I'm like, I just want to bury my head
but
in
that's
shame.
the point. But you need that.
Yeah.
You need that because ChatGPT makes you lazy.
Yeah.
And this is what worries me about. There's two things that I've said in the last 10 minutes that's super important for the younger generation. Because when I started out, I said that I kicked down doors, I grafted, and I would sweat, blood, sweat, and tears to try and make something of my career. I don't believe a lot of the younger generation do that anymore. I think they want everything easy.
My biggest frustration is text.
Is what?
Text and
I thought you
emails.
said tax. Yeah, I hate tax as well.
But text and emails, they won't
Alex,
pick up
you
the
love
phone
a
and
voice-
talk to someone.
Alex, I get 15,000 voice notes from you.
I love the voice note.
Literally.
Yeah, but at least you hear my voice.
You know,
And there's a bond.
A bit more
and I
personal.
have them on 2 times speed as well. Look, texts are great. They're convenient, right?
But the
and
new
they
generation hide behind
But-
it completely.
Yeah, no, they do.
Yeah.
I have this conversation all the time. It just becomes, I think as the more interaction you have with people, the more it defines you, the more confidence it gives you, the more it makes you into a confident human being. The less interaction you have with people, I think the less confident you are in front of people in confrontation. I think it makes you less streetwise.
Yeah.
I think that's the point.
And it's only getting worse. I mean, I look at my two oldest daughters, and they both work from home. They think it's outrageous that they have to go into the office once a week.
That's a real
I think
concern.
working from home is crazy. Like, it's so, we've never done it, and I'm so happy that we don't do it. My brother does it, and it's like, you don't really have any face-to-face interactions in a day. You don't talk to anyone apart from on Teams. It's so
you can't
boring.
learn.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, again, I've been doing what I do for 22 years, right? And I am still learning every day. And, I do sometimes work from home, but that's mainly because I live quite far. I have to do an M25 journey. And also, I started the business over 15 years ago, and I kind of earned my stripes, right? But I think for people going into environment, this is one of my biggest bugbears when I interview someone. Any questions? Now, when I used to go for job interviews, people say, any questions at the end? Usual questions, where do you see me in 5 years? What's my career progression? Can I take more exams? Can I develop? What's the first question people ask me in an interview now?
Can I work from home?
Can I work from home? How many days holiday do I get?
People ask that.
Yeah, of course they do.
Well, that's just an instant red flag. See you later. Get out.
But that is the younger generation now. If I used to see a job, get a phone call from a recruiter and say, you got a job interview, I would say, where is it? What time? Where do I need to be? Now, right, if I pick up the phone to a recruiter, they'll say, right, I've got someone who wants to interview. They can't do this day. They can't do that day. Can you do this time?
Yeah, but the mad thing is they're probably all on Teams now. Like, a lot of interviews are on Teams. You
Well,
don't
this is
meet
the
them.
thing. There isn't a single thing that you can't do on your phone. You can go shopping on your phone. You can do anything that you want. You can shop for clothes and also get your food, your groceries.
But is it as efficient?
I don't know, but that's how the world has transformed. We've been programmed to be lazy. That's just how the world has evolved.
Correct.
No, but only if you use it like that.
I just think.
But it's there for us to use.
I don't
And
know.
Sometimes we can't control it.
I just think, again, it's making people lazy, and it's making people. Like, I'm all for working smart. If you can work smart rather than work hard and still get the same outcome, fantastic. But again, Alex will know, when I was younger, you just have to fight. You have to fight to make something of your life. They don't want to fight anymore. They want it easy.
It's a different world. It's a completely different world. People's brains, we were talking about it on the way here, people's brains have been programmed to not pay attention for more than 10 seconds. You go for a little scroll,
of course.
forgotten all of it. That's just how the world has changed. No one's disciplined anymore, I don't think.
I worry for, again, I keep repeating myself, the younger generation growing up, and when they sort of hit my age in their 40s, right, it'd be very interesting to see how the culture's already shifted, and that worries me. And I've got 2 young kids that are going to grow up in that culture. And hopefully they can learn enough from me and their mum, my wife, to say, you got to go, you got to work hard, you got to impress, you got to graft, So hopefully they'll have enough coaching mentally that will stick with them. And if they can apply technology in the way that we do, great. I worry for a lot of the younger generation that are so obsessed with, working from home and wanting everything easy and hiding behind texts and phones. It's going to be a real culture shift, and it's worrying.
Can I just say, unbelievable segment. Isn't it? Unbelievable. It's going to do numbers on LinkedIn, by the way. You're talking really, you're talking the truth.
I have a lot of these conversations, and I could talk for hours about this stuff, but I worry
sorry.
about society. I really, really do. And it will be fine, because that's just the way life is. Society, culture changes, but I come from a world where I'm a little bit old school, and I just don't think people want to graft anymore. Yeah. And some people don't have to graft to be successful. That's fine. Yeah. But there's a lot of people out there that will struggle in life.
I related
of that.
So much to you saying you're going to work for yourself, but when you work for someone, you just put the hours in and you worked hard. And with that working hard, opportunity comes from that. And that's how you grow in life, where some
Correct.
people just want it on a plate.
Yeah.
And they just expect it to come their way.
Yeah.
Correct.
Comes on their desk, they just process work rather than
One thing my
generate.
dad always said to me is, right, always run with winners.
Yeah.
Right, and that will always stick with me. You know, so you just got to, you know, position yourself around the right people. Don't position yourself around losers, because they will just bring you down, right? And, you know, some people say, you know, if you are down, talk to other people that are down as well, and you know, and that can sometimes help you, yeah, in certain scenarios. But certainly when it comes to just life and business, when especially industries that we're in, where it's all about networking and being well connected to the right people, you know, run with winners, because if you get rapport with the right winners and people like you, you know, you will grow. And more importantly, as I said, when you're hanging around people like Alex that have got so much knowledge, you know, you can only learn and you can only better yourself.
I liked the sorry, I'm being rubbish here, but I learnt that you can't do it all. So you've got to delegate. You can't be an island. As an island, you will not grow. But as you say, you have people around you who are better than you in different stuff. Focus on what you're good at, but be aligned with people who are good at other stuff, and you'll grow that way.
Some of the best entrepreneurs are, and this is almost the contradiction to what I was saying before, are the least knowledgeable people. But where they were smart was they employed the knowledgeable people. You look at Alan Sugar on The Apprentice, right? Listen, he's a shrewd guy. Don't get me wrong. Right, but he employed all the brains around him that had all different skill sets and different tools and different knowledge that he didn't have, and that was a big part of. And then, you know, he will be the first to admit that he wasn't massively academic, right? But he was business shrewd, and one of the shrewdest things you can do in business is to bring people with knowledge.
His son, by the way, is the one that just called Alex a cunt 10 minutes ago on the phone.
And, you know, I look up to someone like him. I wasn't overly academic in school. I did okay in school, but I knew what my weaknesses were. So I knew I had to be around the right people in the right environment to learn from people that are just brilliant at what they do.
Yeah. So is he one of your heroes?
I would say he's a business inspiration, not necessarily a hero, but he's a business inspiration. You know, he comes from Essex, where I'm from.
He actually doesn't. Comes from East London.
Well, he's an East London guy. So yeah, you're right. He lives in Chigwell in Essex. He's an East London guy. My dad's a similar age to him. He grew up in East London as well. So it's quite close to home. Yeah. And he's done unbelievably well, for sure.
Do you have a hero?
Well, I'm a football man. So Dennis Bergkamp is a player that I just so underrated outside of Arsenal.
It's so interesting. A lot of people think that Henry's the best player that ever played in the Premier League, but you ask, no disrespect, older Arsenal fans, and they'll say that Bergkamp was untouchable.
I get frustrated when I talk about Bergkamp, because I don't think, you know, when people talk about the best player, okay, yeah, you got Messi and Ronaldo, and then maybe Maradona and Pele in that bracket, right? And then you've got everyone else. And I don't disagree with that. I don't think it's because Messi and Ronaldo, in terms of pure footballing ability, were any better than the likes of Bergkamp, Henry, Zidane, players like that. It's just because it was just pure consistency, week after week, season after season, right? But Bergkamp, for me, could do things on a pitch that no one else could do.
Everyone always says that.
And he was so different. You look at a lot of the kids coming through now, Ethan Ranieri, absolute quality player, as an example, who've done well for under 21s yesterday, and obviously Miles Lewis-Skelly. You know, a lot of young footballers coming through. A lot of them are quick. They want to beat players. They want to score top corners or top bins, as my 7-year-old son would say, right? You don't get players anymore that actually say, I don't, you know, have that pure football brain, that intelligence, that genius that could just, you know, slow the play down and just find that pass. Okay, you got Kevin De Bruyne. People might like laugh at me for this. I just think Bergkamp was a different league to De Bruyne, and I think De Bruyne was unbelievable.
Genuinely, I'm going to use this on my personal page. I'm going to edit this up.
I get shiver down my spine, seriously, when I think about what he could do. And people outside of Arsenal would not put Bergkamp in top 10 of all time. For me, he's top 10 of all time.
Yeah, but I think as you said, all older, like my dad would say the same thing. Like, he'd speak about Bergkamp before he spoke about Henry.
When
What about you? You remember Dennis Bergkamp?
Of course, I remember him. I'm enjoying the Arsenal pod though. It's fantastic.
Look, there's similar players out there, right? Cantona, Zola, very, very similar players. That kind of number 10. Number 10 back then was very different to number 10 now. A number 10 now is an attacking central midfielder. Odegaard, De Bruyne, those types of players. Number 10 then was like your Teddy Shering's. They were a second forward. So they're very different, right? But here's a great example. When you said your dad, I'm a huge Arsenal fan. Season ticket holder for 20 years. Arsenal's a religion to me, right? But I didn't get that from my dad. My dad didn't like football. So it's quite unusual because I didn't grow up in a football environment. For me, someone like me, to be that obsessed with Arsenal football the way I am. But it was the reverse to me. I got my dad into football. Right, so in the early 90s, he'd be, I'd be watching games and he would watch games. He just wouldn't be that interested. And one day he saw Dennis Bergkamp and he was like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah.
He was like,
see, you're giving me goosebumps. Dan.
This guy's an artist. And it was Dennis Bergkamp that got my dad into football.
Wow.
Because he'd never seen a player like it. He'd see Ian Wright scoring, lovely goals, and we had really good players in the 90s like Wrighty, and obviously, skipper Tony Adams at the back. But Bergkamp was just.
I can't remember who said it. Someone said that he could balance a balloon on a needle in a wind tunnel.
Who said that?
Can't remember.
They talk about they call him the Iceman because he's also a little bit dirty, but he was dirty not in a Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira way. He knew how to give a little sneaky elbow or tread new area on the floor. He had that in him, which also made him who he was. But listen, you've got to remember Bergkamp was also 6'1", I think, big, strong guy. He wasn't the slowest in the world, by the way. He wasn't quick like Thierry, but his football brain was so superior. And like Zidane, slightly different players. Zidane would be slightly deeper. But also a player that I know people do highly rate, but would they put Zidane in the Messi and Ronaldo league? And I genuinely think the only reason Messi and Ronaldo are in that league is because they were that good, but they were that good all the time. And that's why I think
they were competing with each other at the same time.
They were competing with each other and they drove each other on. Yeah. I think if Thierry Henry had the obsession that Ronaldo had in terms of his fitness, his physicality, and Thierry Henry did want to be the best. But as he got older, he probably got a little bit lazy, whereas Ronaldo, every birthday he gets more motivated, doesn't he? I think Thierry Henry had the ability. It
seems to me like you've been waiting years for the professional cameras and a microphone to talk about Dennis Bergkamp. It seems like you're getting a lot off your chest.
Dennis Bergkamp is a genius.
All right, can I ask master questions then? So where would you in that league put Liam Brady and Rocky Rocastle?
Yeah, Alex.
Chippy Brady.
You are how old?
52.
I'm 42.
Yeah.
I know Liam Brady is.
I know Liam Brady is. I didn't watch him.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't watch him. My earliest memories of watching Arsenal was...
we're talking David O'Leary days here.
Yeah, early 90s. Kevin Campbell, Ian Wright, Alan Smith. Those types of players.
Cup winners cup.
And probably my favourite player back then was watching Paul Merson. The 90s until Bergkamp came along. Obviously signed by Bruce Rioch, David Dean.
Shout out David Dean.
And legend. And that's where it all changed. Obviously when Arsene Wenger came in and he got the best out of Bergkamp, didn't he really? Because he had Thierry Henry. He had, look who he's had ahead of him. Wright, Anelka, Omri.
Do you think football's an important language in what you do? Do you ever speak to clients about football?
Yes.
Yeah.
Some people are against it. You talk to some business people, they say no, they don't agree with bringing up football for some reason. Maybe it's because they think it could get heated, too political. I don't agree with that. I think sometimes it's a great icebreaker.
It's an international language. Wherever you go, wherever
correct.
country, you can speak to anyone about football, and even if their English is broken.
Correct. I think it's an amazing icebreaker. And yeah, I think I do. Yeah. Again, I said early on in this podcast, whether it's just a business meeting for your pitching, whatever it is, you want people to buy into you and you want to build rapport. And sometimes talking about football, just everyone relaxes, everyone loosens up. People like me start getting passionate when they start talking about players that they love, like Dennis Bergkamp.
Yeah. So, even you and I, the building we were talking about before, the first couple of times we met, and we were standing outside, it was freezing cold, and we were standing talking about how shit Sterling is, and we were just connecting over our love for Arsenal.
Connected over Arsenal.
Important.
Exactly, mutual love.
I've got a personal question.
Sure.
You brought up. Look how worried you are.
No.
No, you've actually touched me. You brought up your. I've done it again.
Again.
Can I do
Stop
that line
with the
again?
touching you.
Okay. I've got a personal question for you.
Stop touching me, Alex. Only on Saturday nights. Told you.
Cut.
go on.
I've got a personal question for you. You
Go
brought
on.
up your dad many times. How big an influence has he?
Massive.
Okay, and what's his background?
My dad was in retail, so he didn't have, my journey in business is completely different to his journey in business. But I spoke about having to graft and fight. Grew up in the East End. So he had to graft, he had to fight, he had to work hard, and he had to duck and dive, and he had to be creative, and he had to think outside the box. And that's what he did.
Was that duck and dive a fine line? What was it all above? Or was it all above board?
Kosher.
I would say, oh God.
I think this is a no.
Listen. In those days, things were different. So look, he's never broke the law, but did he make business decisions that were probably close? I'm sure he did.
So would you say your dad's your hero? Put Dennis Bergkamp aside. Is your dad ranked above Dennis Bergkamp?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, my dad, right?
I do want to know more about life and, your company life.
Yeah.
What does life mean?
Well, the name Life kind of came from the fact that we look after people's life from a financial point of view, their journey in life. We try and get people on the property ladder. We protect people's livelihoods. Obviously, life insurance as well. So, one of the biggest and most important decisions in your life is the first property you buy. And that's something that obviously we specialise in. So there's kind of an inspiration about that theme. Life Financial Solutions was set up as an FCA regulated financial services company that can take care of all aspects of your finances in your life. Whether it be, your first mortgage, whether you want to be a landlord and build a portfolio, if you want to make sure that you protect your family, and we spoke about life insurance, critical illness, income protection, and the important things you need to insure in your life. Making sure that you've got the right tax planning, the right inheritance planning, you've got the right pensions in place for when you retire. And that's who we are as a company. We have specialists in each area as well. So we don't have one person that can do all. We have a specialist in each of those areas. So someone coming to our business will speak like Alex spoke to me about making sure you've got the right finance, and he spoke to Darren, who heads up our protection arm, to make sure he's got the right critical illness life insurance in place. And we believe that you should be a specialist in what you do. A Gary Neville, not a Phil Neville, in football analogy.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to know, because I like to know people's personal favourites of what they do.
Dennis Bergkamp. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Do you have a favourite deal that you've done?
It's got to be one with Alex. He's sitting opposite,
I think one I'm most proud of was development in East London. It was a £40 million development, and my client needed 28 million to build. So I secured a development facility that allowed him to build up to a £28 million budget, and that was one that I was quite proud of.
What do you do after that? What do you do when you secure that, when it's all finalised? Because Alex and Ben often say that when they've finally completed on a deal, it's just on to the next one, on to the next one. Do you sit back and relax, or are you on to the next, on to the next?
Sometimes you have to reflect. And sometimes what makes you better at what you do is sometimes you need to reflect to say what went well and what went wrong, And I think that one I kind of internally celebrated, not because of the size of the deal, but a deal like that is never going to be easy. It's never going to be quick. And there were so many challenges along the way, so many moving parts, so many complexities, so many occasions where you thought this is going to die. And with big deals, that generally happens. Occasionally you get a big deal and it's so smooth. but sometimes the bigger the deal, the more complex, right? And that was more the celebration for me, because it was like relief, big deep breath. That was 18 months of hard graft.
Yeah, but do you not think the bigger the deal, the more hungry it makes you to then? All right, I've done that. What's the next
think,
one?
God, if I could do one of them,
That's what I mean. Yeah, well, obviously not a week,
absolutely. But again, I've spoken so much about meeting people and meeting good people and building great relationships and deals like that. It happens. You meet different people every time. You try not to be just a pure transactional business. And what we both do, we are pure transactional. But where we build value is the relationships that we build, because that's where we start to get repeat business. And that's where you start to secure and lock in really key relationships that help your business grow and you grow as a person. People start trusting you, people start talking about you, and that's super important. You want to have a good reputation. You want the world of social media now as well. You want people to make noises about you, very much like you guys. You've got a great reputation of what you do. And that's important because that's why people keep coming back to you.
No comment.
You want to reflect on that?
That's all good.
No, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started the podcast. Obviously, we work commercially with quite a lot of people, but it is important for people to see your true self, and that's why we do it.
I mean, we work in quite a challenging market with some quite interesting characters, to put it politely. And I think you've learnt, I put a lot of leads your way, and sometimes you must be left pulling your hair out saying, am I just wasting my time?
Listen, the saying, you throw enough shit at the fan,
Yeah.
some will stick. Listen, I was really sceptical at first.
Yeah.
I was, because probably the first 10 people I spoke to, time wasters.
Yeah. They don't mean to be time
They
wasters.
don't mean to be time wasters, right? They don't. And they're not time wasters because they have the intention to be. But what I mean by that is, you speak to people and they say, I want to buy this £5 million building. Okay, great. How much cash do you have? £5,000. You're like, right. But we're building our income. Great. Let's have a look at your accounts. Well, we did 10,000 last year. And it's just, and again, and
You've got
that.
Yeah, 100%.
And
You've got to educate.
But do you know
educate.
what? I mean, this is where there was a long time before I came in to the journey of this relationship.
Yeah.
And you sold many buildings with many people getting funding. So you learn, obviously, you've learned quite a lot yourself as well before you and I met about knowing the right things and knowing roughly how much cash you need to have, roughly what the income needs to be.
You don't like my formulas, though.
I don't like them, they're just wrong.
But they still work, roughly. They're ballpark for me.
That's why 1 in 50 actually go through.
Okay.
You're just patient.
No, it's more than
No,
that.
you got it. You're pretty much there. You got it.
No, I mean, he looks at the full cash flow, what's going in, what's going out. I just times their income by 4 or 5 and say,
That's what you always say to me. You're like, if their income
Yeah.
is...
It's not, I mean, if you want to borrow against your house and with the Halifax, you can times it by 5, but certainly not on a place of worship. But no, the theory is there, and they are very, I enjoy it, to be honest with you, because you get very interesting people, characters. But what I like actually is the passion for these types of clients. They have so much passion. They want it so bad.
Yeah, they're buying for legacy.
And I like that. And I find it amazing how someone might say, I've only got £10,000, and then 6 months later they'll call me and say they've got £500,000 in the bank. And I say, how did you do that? And they'll say, God.
It's probably
And
similar.
I say, Dennis Bergkamp.
Before I started working with Alex, any church inquiry or religious inquiries used to come our way. We'd just be like, we're not going to let to them, or that the seller won't sell to them. They haven't got the money. And I started working for you, and then eventually the more people you speak to, they're dreaming, but then, like you say, 6 months down the line, they're actually capable, and that's why.
If you educate, you're playing the long game. So it might take them 3-5 years, but they will come back.
I actually think that if you give me one word that's super key to the world that you're in, and that you've kind of brought me into as well, which I'm grateful for, is patience.
The most patient man in the world
Ever.
I am.
No,
It's
I
funny.
don't know about that. I'm not having
No,
that.
do you know it's
Should
really
we talk about your
interesting,
driving
actually?
lessons?
This is what's quite complex about who I am as a person, because one half of me is super patient, and that is the side of me that's with clients. And I will say to clients, they'll say, I'm so sorry, can I ask you another stupid question? I say, keep asking. It's really, really important that you understand, you walk away from this conversation, you know exactly what's going on, and you're comfortable with what you're doing. I'm really, really patient. I am with my people as well. When we spoke about managing people, I don't like managing people when it comes to politics and confrontation and all the crap that managers have to deal with. What I do love is educating people, training people, making people better. I'm really patient. The other side of me, which Ben knows, is when I want to get a deal done, and I want to get a deal done and get it over the line, then I'm not patient. And you speak to a lot of my banking and lending relationships, they'll say it's like we've got a love-hate relationship. Sometimes they hate me because I drive them nuts. I'm demanding because I'm impatient. Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? That's just me. So I'm really demanding, impatient on one side. On the other side, I'm super patient. And I think that's what makes a good broker.
I figured out, if you tell him you're in the spa at the gym, he'll leave you alone. Because that's the only time he's ever stopped calling me.
Strip club.
Yeah, or strip club. Yeah.
Yeah. What is there an art to patience? How do you do it? How?
No, you can't coach someone to be patient. I think that you can scare someone into patience. You know, if you bring fear to someone and you scare them into being patient, they'll be patient. But maybe on that one occasion, it's not sustainable. You're either a patient person or you're not. But sometimes people are patient in some aspects and impatient in other aspects. I mean, ask my wife. She'll say, she'll be able to verify that.
I think it's respect. Honestly, sometimes people drive me mad and they're eating my time. And we said it in a previous pod. I might put it on mute and scream at the wall.
Do you know his go-to?
I'm just walking into a meeting.
No. Do you know his go-to frustration?
Fuck a duck.
Have you never heard him say, fuck a duck?
No, I don't think I've heard you
He's
say
probably
that.
been on mute, that's right.
Yeah.
Why should people use Life Financial Solutions?
Specialists in what we do. If you've got a particular area of financial need in property, it's not just a case of I can do this, this and this. I'll find the right person in the company. It could be me, it could be someone else with specialists in what we do. And you know you've got someone with years of experience and track record in delivering that for you. And I think that theme of being relentless, that's a common theme in my business. The people that work with us and for us are relentless at what they do, and they're motivated to get deals done.
If you've got a vanilla deal, go to any broker. But if it means or it needs more than that, this man will rummage through your dirty laundry drawer or whatever it is, and he'll find a solution. Always.
It's what we do, and we enjoy it. The more challenging sometimes, the better, right? Because you do learn every time. You're referring to vanilla. I call them order takers. You know, we have this fancy software that all mortgage brokerage firms have. We call it a sourcing system. We punch in the numbers, the loan to value, and we'll come up with all the best deals in the high street. You know, all these kind of order taker mortgage advisors will say, right, Halifax at the top, 4.05, 2-year fix, click, apply, away we go. They're just order takers. We will actually sit and we'll listen and we'll fact find and we'll say, actually, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and this is the advice that we give, and we will educate. You know, and I mentioned earlier about people asking questions, make sure they get it.
I think we asked Gemma a similar question when she was on here about, because obviously you mentioned you're co-founder and you sort of work for yourself, in the sense of when you hire people, do you often find it difficult because you look for, because you've mentioned you're quite old-fashioned in the sense of your work ethic and stuff. Is it hard to hire people to find similar work ethic? Do you know what I mean? It's
really hard. So about 4 years ago, we built our core values of the business.
Trust. Taking ownership.
Thank you.
Going above and beyond. Adaptability and passion.
And I think these are words that we've used, some of these words a few times, you know, in this podcast. We spoke about trust, being adaptable, going above and beyond. It starts at trust, doesn't it? That underpins everything. But in answer to your question, Ben, our interviewing process has always been looking for values first, making sure they're the right cultural fit. It's just having the right attitude, right? You can have all the skills and knowledge in the world, but if you have a bad attitude, you're not going to make it. If you have a good attitude, we can coach you and train you to have skills and knowledge, right? So it's very hard to find people like that, but we focus purely on cultural fit, values first. And then if they're a right fit from a values point of view and we think their values are aligned, that makes it a lot easier. Then we start looking at competency, we start looking at skills. and knowledge.
All right, I'm going to come in with something, editing anyway. So there are churches who have relationships with banks already. And for instance, let's say Kingdom Bank or Charity Bank. And I know they'll go to that bank and say, I don't need a broker. And they'll go to that bank and I can look at their accounts and know they haven't got enough deposit, they haven't got enough income. And I'll say, go to Daniel. He will get you the mortgage, because you'll look at those accounts and you'll extract the value and you'll go to Caroline at Charity Bank and say, look, when they get this building, they're also going to put a nursery in and their income's going to jump by twofold. So actually, although on paper we can only lend X, we can actually lend Y. That's a fantastic skill. People don't recognise that value.
Correct. You need to extract all the merits and all the positives of the charity and what they do and the social impact that they're having and what their goals are and what their plans are and what their projections are. And you have to sell it. And you have to present a strong story to get the bank to buy into it. The minute you go to a bank, and this is the same for a church, it's the same for anyone. The minute you go to the bank and you say, these are my earnings, these are my accounts, this is who I am. If I don't like it, it's finished. There's no coming back. Obviously, as brokers, we are storytellers. We have to tell the right story, and we have to extract the merits. And it's a bit like putting a business plan together, right? And we put the right story in front of the bank so they get it and they understand and they see the value. And then we spoke a lot about fighting. Then we fight for them, you know, and it's going to the right people, also having the right relationship. So if I've got a good track record with Carolyn. We've got a great relationship at Charity Bank, and she knows how I work. And because we have this trust, straight away we're one step ahead because she knows me. You know, and it's the same with you. You've got a good reputation as well with those guys, so it kind of works. It's all about trust and relationship.
People have got to recognise your value, and that's what you bring.
Correct, and also it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right deal. Even if Kingdom Bank are going to say yes if you go direct, if Charity Bank are going to say yes if you go direct, doesn't mean it's the right deal. You know, do you want a 15-year term? Do you want a 25-year term? Do you want interest only? Do you want repayment? Do you want interest only holiday? Do you want a variable? Do you want a fix? You know, it's knowing that you're getting the right product and the right advice as well. And that is where the value of a broker, right?
Absolutely. Looks like that.
Very well said. I think you've spoken brilliantly.
Thank you.
Have you did you underestimate yourself?
No.
Confident.
We should do all the blue stuff now, yeah? Do it again, because then you'll be happier.
No, listen, I love talking about, you said, am I passionate? And I probably didn't answer that very well because actually you can see the passion when I talk about my product. You know what? I've been here for 22 years. So I'm good at what I do. I know my product. I'm passionate about it. And I think that comes across.
Danny, Sovitch, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
you,
guys.
Thank you all for watching. Take care.